Hi, boys and girls. Welcome back to Tuesday, which is like a Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. So today you'll notice I have the characteristics of a civilization, the Mesopotamia mind map out. You will need that today. We're going to be adding to the back of it, talking about the beginning civilizations and empires. So please make sure you have that out if you don't already. You will need that. And we talked about how Mesopotamia is the cradle of civilization, the land between two rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates. That is a location on a map. You've seen the map, you've seen the area, and that is a specific area where these different civilizations and empires grow. And so the first civilization is the Sumerian, or the Sumer Empire. And no, not empire, but civilization. It's not an empire yet, and we'll talk about that in a second. We're going to be adding to the back, which we'll talk about that. But I first ask you to look at the Sumer civilization on your geohistogram. So either in your teacher's classroom, you have a large geohistogram up, or through the link, which looks like this, you have your geohistogram up. So just remembering that it goes from west to east, and this is the most current date with the 2000 Common Era, and moving further away from time with Common Era going up on this particular one, and before Common Era going down on this geohistogram. We can see that in our last chapter, boys and girls, we studied prehistory, the time before writing. It's not even on the geohistogram. Humans were starting to, we can find from fossils that humans were around 2 to 300 years ago, and they lived kind of the same way for quite some time. And then maybe about 70 to 100,000 years ago, these Homo sapiens started leaving Africa. And then from there, we have the beginnings of civilizations and empires. And we learned at the end of prehistory that the Neolithic age was at that time, and the earth was warming, which allowed the agricultural revolution. That allowed people to live together in closer areas because they had enough food available to them. So now we are going to study what happens to humans as we start living together in larger groups in closer quarters because we have enough food. We went through the characteristics right here. We said for civilization, you had to have city-states, which means people living in close proximity, which means enough food, a large population, stable food supply. We said there had to be some organization to this area, so we have to have some government and law. And then we have to know what's going on over time, so we have written language. Cuneiform or cuneiform is the first written language that we know of. And then we said there's a social structure to these city-states and civilizations with the most important person on top and going down, well, and at least in their terms, the most important person with the king, and then going on down to the slaves. And then we can see that there's some type of uniting element or religion. The people in this time were all polytheistic. That means they had multiple gods, and even we wrote down here 1,000+ gods was pretty common. And they had ziggurats to identify how much they really appreciated their gods and how much they wanted to show homage to them and to praise them. And then we said that a civilization also has to have technology of some sort. Really, to me, technology is answering a problem. We have a problem. We can't be as efficient as we want to be. So how can we get more efficient? We invent something. Technology. Of course, in this time, technology is not iPhone technology, but things like plows and wheels and things of that nature. And then because we have enough food and not everyone has to go out hunting and fishing and gathering, we can spend time doing something else. So some people were becoming really good potters, really good builders, really good at irrigation. They might have been priests or those kinds of things because we had the ability to do that. So this is what we've already done. If you don't have this done, you'll need to copy someone's to get caught up. Everyone is going to be using the backside of this today, so keep that available. But I said to you in the question of the day, I can't remember the exact wording, but I asked you to examine when does the Sumer civilization begin. This is a geohistogram, so we certainly do not have an exact year. We cannot exactly hone in on when it begins. But I would ask you to start the identification of the civilization where the bubble starts to get a little bigger. So this is just a line. This is the beginning of it. This is still pretty small. Maybe we wouldn't even count that for the actual beginning. So this would be the time period that I'd ask you to be identifying with. And it is hard to say for sure, right? And so there's a little bit of variation in there. But if you said somewhere around 3,500, maybe right around the area, 3,300 BCE, before Common Era, that would be a good approximate year. And then we can see that the Sumers, they get larger, they improve, their bubble gets bigger. But then we can see, something goes on right here and it gets smaller. And then Babylon comes on the scene, and we'll learn about that. They grow and expand and get better. Then they have some weakness, and they don't do as well. And then Assyria takes over. So there's also one, the Akkadians, who are not listed on the geohistogram, but we'll talk about them today. And so we can see how this area, the Mesopotamia area of what we now call the Middle East, is changing with its different civilizations. Sumer is the first one. Then it goes to the Akkadians, which is the first empire. We'll talk about that. Then Babylon, then Assyria. And so this is what we're studying today, this section right here. And you can see that if we go up to our section up here, that we are in the Middle East. Okay, so we know that's the frame. You've seen the map before, and you'll see more again. So this is where we are today. Oh, and the other question I asked you about, how long ago was that from today? Well, if we said 3,500, 3,300, we'd have to add another 2,000 years on for Common Era. So maybe around 5,500. A lot of things you'll read will say around 6,000 years ago, because they attribute this to being a little bit older than we see it on the geohistogram. We can remember that it's really hard for scientists, because this was so long ago, thousands of years ago, that they're using artifacts and evidence that is hard to determine the exactness of things. So you'll see some flexibility in some of those dates by hundreds of years for sure on some occasions. So we just want to acknowledge that this was thousands of years ago, but we also want to acknowledge that in some ways 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years ago isn't that long ago for just inventing the wheel. Maybe 5,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, the wheel was invented. Today, we have computers we carry in our pockets. So pretty crazy technology advancements and human advancements over the last few thousand years. Okay, having said that, I'm going to stop this video. Please make sure you have this out and available to you with a pencil. We're going to add to the back. If you need to do a little shakeout and move around a bit, go for it now if your teacher allows it, because we have some note-taking to do and some learning about the upcoming civilizations and empires and so forth. So be ready to take some notes.